The Australian government has lodged a formal protest with China over what it calls an unsafe and unprofessional encounter between a Chinese fighter jet and an Australian military surveillance aircraft over the South China Sea. Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles condemned the incident, calling it a dangerous escalation.
We have made representations about our concerns to the Chinese government both yesterday and today here in Canberra, but also in Beijing. Clearly, our defence forces are going to interact with each other, we know that, but what's really important is that when they do so in a manner which is safe and professional, and this wasn't.
Although the Australian aircraft avoided damage and returned safely, Marles warned that such reckless encounters increase the risk of serious military incidents.
On Tuesday at about 1 o'clock Australian time, an Australian P-8 that was flying in international airspace in the South China Sea was challenged by a couple of J-16 Chinese Air Force planes, their fourth generation fast jets. There were a number of interactions between them and the P-8, but one of those interactions involved the release of flares at a very close distance to the P-8, such that the flares passed within about 30 metres of the P-8. What's important though is that the proximity of the J-16 was so close that there's no way you could have been able to ensure that the flares did not hit the P-8.
Marles described the incident as a serious safety risk, emphasising that the close proximity of the Chinese jets made it impossible to guarantee the flares wouldn't strike the Australian aircraft. The encounter adds to growing concerns over China's military manoeuvres in the region.
The plane was not hit, so it was able to return safely, so all our personnel are fine. I can't tell you exactly the number on that flight for obvious reasons, but what I can say is that the typical crew for any P-8 flight would be in the vicinity of 8 or 9 people.
On this, China responded by saying,
the Australian military aircraft deliberately intruded into China's territorial airspace of Shisha Kundao without China's permission, infringing on China's sovereignty and endangering China's national security. China's measures to expel the aircraft were legitimate and exercised with professional restraint. China has lodged solemn representations to Australia, demanding that Australia stop its infringement and provocations and stop undermining peace and stability in the South China Sea.
Meanwhile, Australian Defence Forces are closely monitoring a Chinese naval task group operating in waters north of Australia. The Jiangkai-class frigate Hengyang passed through the Torres Strait on Tuesday before linking up with a larger Chinese flotilla, which includes a cruiser and a replenishment vessel. While the cruiser remains further north, outside Australia's exclusive economic zone, the frigate has entered these waters. Marles acknowledged that the Chinese naval presence does not violate international law, but stressed Australia's right to track foreign military activity near its borders. The Royal Australian Navy has deployed the Anzac-class frigate HMAS Arunta to shadow the Chinese vessels and gather intelligence. The latest encounter adds to mounting tensions in the South China Sea, a strategically vital region where multiple nations, including China, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia, have overlapping territorial claims. Australia has consistently defended its right to conduct military operations in accordance with international law, emphasizing the need to maintain freedom of navigation and regional stability. This is not the first time Australia and China have been at odds over military encounters. In 2023, Australia accused a Chinese warship of injuring an Australian Navy diver by deploying sonar at close range in Japan's exclusive economic zone, an allegation that Beijing denied. With China increasing its military activity in the region, tensions in the South China Sea continue to escalate, raising concerns among regional and Western powers.